Hello, welcome to the Writing House. We didn't do the intro. Victorine does that. She's not here today. So Amy and I are here together at my kitchen table. We're going to do the podcast together. This is kind of fun. So
I do this because my internet's really bad where I live, and I would be glitching the whole time since I'm so rural. So I drive down to visit with Michelle. We do some writing, and I use her internet.
Yes.
So
the joys of satellite. So we were able to have a great episode last time about Kindle Vella, but we weren't able to ask any of the questions. So that's what we're going to do or answer the questions.
And Judy and Victorine are not here today. They had prior engagement, so you just get us two.
Mm-hmm.
And we're on the same screen.
It's kind of cool. Oh my gosh, we're too silly. Okay, so what are you doing, Anne-Marie?
Well, I am a couple chapters away from finishing my next women's fiction book, which will be book 6 in this series. So I'm really excited for that because writing and moving really messes with you when you're writing. And so I've kind of lost motivation for this book just because I haven't been doing like the proper thinking through when I'm done writing and then all that other stuff. So I'm kind of excited to put this book to rest and then start on the next one. I got my German translation done, which is going to launch next week, or not next week, next month. So I'm just kind of writing and taking courses. I'm doing Sky Warren's Facebook ads course, and then I'm doing a TikTok course as well to kind of up my game, trying to make more plans on how I'm going to level up my income and make more money every month or every year from now on out. So, it's writing, but it's also figuring out all the other stuff, marketing and things like that.
Yep.
Excuse me. What about you, Michelle?
Today, I am so desperately trying to finish my work in progress. My Bodyguard Summer is the name of it. It's a romantic suspense. I always try and call it rom-spence because it's my own little phrase I've coined for it. And it's getting longer, which is making it harder to finish. So I'm like, thanks a lot, story. But it's a lot of fun. And I hope to have it done by the middle of next week, like off to my editor, so that I'm going on a trip with my family, and I'd really rather not be working on it while I'm on my trip. But
I'm going to try not to be jealous that she's in Florida.
You should be jealous. Someday I'll take you down there with me when I can talk you into it. So we're going to, I'm going to finish that and have a quick YA project to finish, and then I am going to try and get some Kindle Vella stuff going because everyone says that they could launch. My puppy is joining us too, and he's being fun.
He's eating markers. No.
So we're going to expect Amazon to launch that. They've said July, I think, and no one knows an actual date. So I'm just hoping to get things nailed down ahead of that date. So I have stuff that goes live when it launches. But that's all I have going on. Just lots of working. So
I think our camera flips us because I tried to look at you on the screen and I end up looking like I'm looking in that direction. And so people are probably like, what is she looking at over there? I'm really looking at Michelle, even though she's over here on the screen. She's over there.
I was trying to get closer, but I was leaning the wrong.
So my eyeballs are just doing all sorts of things.
Okay, guys. So it's time to get to the Q&A section. And we're going to start with questions that we already had in the feed. We're going to try and go fast, and Anne-Marie and I are the talkers of the group. So, but we're going to
how we do that.
We're going to try and keep it short enough that we can get to a lot of questions. So feel free to go ahead and ask them over in the comment section, and be sure you may need to give Facebook permission so that you can show your name when you ask a question. But we'll try and get to as many of those as we can too.
And give us a heart if you guys are thinking about doing Kindle Vella, because I'm interested to see how many people are actually going to do it after our conversation. So if you are, give us a heart.
That's
and
good
so
idea.
We can see how many people are interested in Kindle Vella. I know I am. But I have so many books to write. Like I have 6 on after this one, I have 6 on pre-order that need to be written by the end of November. So I will be doing lots of crazy things between now and then, and hopefully not getting distracted.
Distracted. You got it right.
Yeah.
Right on the second try.
By other things. So yeah. Anyways, okay. So the first question is there a list of Facebook groups that support author takeovers? I'm looking to do a couple of takeovers a month, and I'm not sure where to start. Thank you. Well, I think first we need to talk about author takeovers on Facebook and if they're actually something that you should be doing. I know personally for me, I don't do very much promoing on Facebook just because the organic reach is so, they've restricted a lot of the reach that they have given people at the beginning of Facebook. Probably takeovers feel like something that you would do like, 4 or 5 years ago. I just don't think that they're as effective now, or they're the best use of your time. Even in your group, like so before, people used to have Facebook pages and everybody worked really hard to grow their Facebook page because Facebook would send things out. And then all of a sudden they started restricting Facebook pages to, you have to pay to promote this. So all these people who worked so much to build up their Facebook page all of a sudden lost all that organic visibility, and now they're having to pay. And then so then people move to Facebook groups. But I guess Facebook has been working on changing groups, and they're like offering other groups as options inside of groups. So I just don't think Facebook groups are as effective, especially if they're not your own personal one, to do author takeovers.
Yeah, and if you did want to try it, you would need to make sure it was with an author who wrote the same kind of book you were writing, so that the audience would be warm and receptive to what you had, that that author likes to do it as well, that you return the favor for them. And it would be really good to announce it ahead of time to try and get people ready and looking for it so they can get more engagement. But honestly, it's pretty hard to sell books in a Facebook takeover. And I would think the best thing you could really do is just another way to get your name in front of people, but don't expect to get like a lot of sales from something like that. So I think that's pretty much the only thing I would say about that. I am curious, since we're talking about Facebook groups and their effectiveness, we were just looking at how you can do rooms, like live video feeds within a group now. I wonder how that would work in like my reader group, to have like a room and invite people to come on and chat with me.
Because I know back in, like for I do most of my art giveaways on my Scream team, and they suggest that you do an event and invite people to it to get more visibility. So I don't know. I think I feel like Facebook has kind of screwed themselves a little bit with all these restrictions. People are moving off of their platform to connect with people on other platforms. And I wonder if they're trying to make it easier and better. I swear I have another part of my eyebrow here. It's just the sun is like making it look like my eyebrow is like cut off right here. So if you're wondering, I do have more of my eyebrow. So I wonder what they're going to do. Someone says the room features, it's pretty buggy in my experience. Yeah, that's my worry. I think Facebook is trying to compete with all these other social media platforms I think they all are. You have YouTube that are starting video shorts or something. I think everything is compete with TikTok. I think everything is moving in towards more of the TikTok range, and they're all trying to accommodate that. I feel like Instagram became very fake-ish.
Well, and TikTok is also really pushing Reels, so they give you more engagement in your algorithm if you're using Reels than if you're just posting to your page or your story now, because they're also
You mean Instagram?
Yes.
You said TikTok. TikTok is doing Reels?
I think Instagram is trying to compete with TikTok, is what I meant to say, by promoting Reels within the app. So they want people to use Reels instead of just posting pictures on their feed. And so they're promoting it in their algorithms and stuff like that, because they are trying to compete with TikTok.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think it would just depend. I don't know. If I was advising a new author coming into the author space and they were trying to ask me about Facebook takeovers, I would say I wouldn't even worry about them. I would find different ways to reach audiences. But if you can find people and that would let you, that have a good active Facebook group, then do that. But I don't think there's groups for it. I think you just have to reach out to the author and say, hey, do you allow takeovers for your page or your group? There
may be a few genre or niche specific reader groups that would allow you to do it, but you just have to join the group and then see what their rules are.
Yeah. So the next question is, for someone with only ebooks and paperbacks out, are audiobooks worth it getting into right now, or is it best to wait until policies change with ACX Audible? I can't afford much up front, so it would be a limited to royalty share. Well, Audible and ACX have actually changed a lot of their policies because of the authors being frustrated with what was going on. If you didn't know, Audible was allowing people to return books months after listening. They could have listened to the full book, and Audible was letting them do it at the expense of the author, which was very frustrating because authors are the ones that put the money forward and promote and provide the material.
And they weren't giving authors any kind of visibility on what kind of returns they were getting on their books either. They had no way of knowing what they sold compared to what they had
returns. Yeah. So, and it wasn't fair to authors for them to allow that. And they were actually actively promoting, you can just return it and get a new book. And then the authors were out that money. So they have changed that. So I think that that's a positive in the Audible ACX area. I have personally taken most of my audiobooks out of Audible's exclusivity, and I've gone to Findaway with them. But it does take time to build up on other platforms. If you feel like being on Findaway isn't something that you're really interested in, I would just say start doing audiobooks now. You only have to be in exclusive. Well, if you're royalty share, that would be different. I would say, here's my personal opinion about audiobooks. It's better to have, if you're spending money on advertising and if you're actively trying to promote your name, your brand, your book, it's better to have as many formats as possible out there for that one chance that perhaps a blogger talks about your book, or I had a TikTok video go viral. Having all my formats for my book just exponentially increased the amount of money I was going to make off of this once, but like I said, it's like winning the lottery, rolling the dice. Like, will you have that opportunity? I personally like having different streams of income coming in. But if you're limited,
I would say if you're a new author and you aren't getting a whole lot of, like, if you don't have a lot of profit coming in on your books yet, audio is probably a later investment in your business, because I think that audiobooks sell best for books that are already performing well.
Yes. Yeah.
So if you have a book that is not performing well in Kindle, for example, it's going to be a lot harder to sell it in audio and even in paperback. So I would focus as a new author in raising my visibility on my books and getting to where they're performing better on their own. And then when I see that is starting to happen, then I would start thinking about investing in audio, because it is an investment. I would say my first one I did on my own was on the cheaper side, and it was about $550, I think.
Well, she's doing royalty share, so she doesn't have to put any money up front.
That's true, but you have a harder time getting narrators to agree to your project on royalty share if they don't see that your book is performing, because they'll be investing a lot of time and effort into it, and they want to know that the book's going to pay them back. So,
and I think it's 7 years that they have to be. So first of all, I would never spend like thousands and thousands of dollars on my audiobook, especially if you're not, super huge, well-known author. I feel like audiobooks are in themselves their own little world. And so if you're not paying thousands of dollars to get that audiobook artist where people are like, I will listen to whatever so-and-so reads. I don't care. I mean, people actually have audiences that follow them. I have one audiobook artist I love to work with because she's fast and she knows me and we work really well together. But I don't pay her insane amount of money to be my audiobook artist. So you just kind of have to weigh the pros and cons. Like if you do, like you could build your platform bigger with some of that money or that time, and then you could do not royalty share, and then you're not splitting your royalties. And then if you want to go to Findaway and be in libraries and on Hoopla and all those kinds of things, you have a much bigger ability to do it. So I agree with what Michelle says. If you have more money, it's disposable income, that would be your next investment. You focus on your books and your paperbacks now, and then you grow in circles.
Hand me my water.
On your way out.
I got to go my throat. Thanks.
So that was a very convoluted question to say it depends.
That would have been our quick answer. We were trying to do quick answers. Quick. No, we don't.
No, okay. So what do you consider a good ROI on ad spend? Also, can you talk about scaling issue? For example, I had a Facebook ad doing well for weeks that I decided to seriously pump up my budget only for the results not to scale. No other promos were growing at the time to account for early success. Since then, I'm nervous about scaling. My experiment took about $20 a day to about 150 for 3 days. Kept expecting revenue to catch up in a delayed fashion, but it didn't. Went back down in my spend and then profitable again. Still going strong a month later. Still confused.
This is your question.
So Facebook ads are not scalable in that sense that you can just keep pumping money in. There's going to come a point of diminished returns. So you also have to kind of, I think I need a little more information to answer this question as well. When you say ROI, is that just on book one, or are you talking about the entire series? So you know, and you also have to figure out, how have you trained Facebook? How had you trained Facebook with that ad? Facebook's main goal is to get you clicks. And so if you were saying, well, I have this great ad with my, CPC is really low, my click-through rate's really high, and you pumped up, and so you were getting some return, but then you pumped it up. Sometimes when you increase, you magnify an issue that could have been going on with your ad that you weren't seeing at that lower spend. So I think I need a little bit more question. ROI is kind of personal. Like most people say, they want like 200% ROI, but that's in the entire series. A lot of people lose money on book one to bank that money through the read through. So it's like, how long is your series? What is your profitability? If you get somebody into book one, how much is your possible to make throughout the whole series? So you need to know those kinds of numbers. I would say Facebook, you cannot scale, and you can't scale that quickly. So a lot of times people will tell you scale up by $5 a day and make sure that your income is scaling at that same time. Other option is to duplicate the ads that you have and try a different audience instead of just bumping your income up that fast. And then another way to scale that's not necessarily with Facebook is to try Amazon ads. I mean, obviously, the more money you spend, the more money you're, most of the time you want to have that income coming back to you. So sometimes you have to change how you're spending it or where you're spending it. So that would be my advice. Take a look at, and 3 days is not long enough for you to bank on that read through. But also I wouldn't go from 20 to 150 in a day. I would have scaled that up slowly. I think Mark Dawson says around like $75 his ad maxes out. So then he duplicates it and tries another audience at the same time. So I would not suggest you jump up that high, because then that's what happens, is that you will lose that profitability. But the more you spend, the higher, like I said, you magnify issues. So perhaps there's an issue with your Amazon page, you're sending more people to it, they're not converting, or there's an issue with your ad as well. I hope that's helpful.
Sounds helpful to me.
I think it's like when it comes to ads and specifics like that, you really have to give a little bit more information so people can like give you better advice. So any thoughts on the new Killick's romance report? I haven't seen it. Have you?
I haven't watched it recently. I've heard nothing but good stuff though. So I think that for one thing, I don't think it's appropriate for us as the writing gals to tell you what's in the report, because we're friends with Alex, and we don't want to take his information that he has gathered and worked hard for and just broadcast it live on YouTube. So, but as far as recommending it, I think that it's always a great way to go in, and he's got so much information on there, from like seeing what covers are doing well, what price points are performing well in the top 100, what keywords are performing well, what kind of titles are performing well, and there's just a lot of information. And I would say that there's never going to be like a report that's going to be like, oh, this is, sorry, I've got my windows open today, you're going to hear traffic. Like this report is going to give you the secret to selling romance forever. But I think any of the romance reports or any of the genre reports will give you a lot of really valuable information that you can use how you want to use it. So I always recommend that people get them.
Yeah, and we have talked with Alex, and we have told him about like what we would want for Sweet, and kind of, you will hear him sometimes in the reports be like, I'm not really sure why that's happening, and we're like, oh, we know why that's happening.
Yeah, like if he says, for some reason, Billionaire just took off at a completely different time than the Steamy Billionaire, so we're like, yeah, that's because the writing gals were talking about it a lot.
Yeah, it's interesting to see, but yeah, so we always recommend his reports. If you're not somebody who wants to go and do all the work yourself, they're really, really great and very condensed and good information. And if you want to know how to find it, go to thewritinggals.com, and we talk about how to find Kalytics. We do earn a little commission off of telling you guys to go there. So you guys will be helping the podcast out, as well as getting amazing information for pretty nominal amount of money.
Yeah, they're really affordable reports for how much information he gives you, for sure.
Yes. So someone says, I'm struggling to find a critique partner or group in my genre, historical Western romance. And I'd love to hear how you all found each other and banded together.
We found each other through a Facebook group. It was a critique group or a beta reading Facebook group for our genre. So we all connected that way. And I would say that it's pretty much going to be the same thing, either meet at conferences or meet in some kind of a genre focused critique group and just, match up with people that have, similar goals and writing styles as you do. And
I think being so specific, like historical Western, I'm guessing you want to find a critique group that writes that because maybe you're concerned about like accuracy and those types of things. That is such a specific genre to write in that not a lot of people write in it. So I think for us, like we all write different types. Like she writes Regency, fantasy, YA, and I write women's fiction and YA and paranormal. So I think being more broad in what you're looking for, like I want to find a historical romance critique group that might help you find more people that you can chat with. Like you have to think about, what is it that you want to get critiqued on? Is it your plot? Is it your romance? Is it your storyline character? Or is it your historical accuracy? Yeah. So if it's just your romance, maybe people won't be able to tell you, like, yes, that's the kind of bucket that person would use in the 1900s.
Right.
But they would say, I'm not feeling the tension or the chemistry between these two characters. You might need to amp it up. So you really have to decide what it is exactly you want from the critique, and then find a group based on that. Because most people, even if they don't know historical accuracy stuff, they know good romance, or they know good plot, or they know good characters. So I would try not to be so specific, because if I was like,
if you're having trouble finding people,
right, like if I was like, I want only sweet paranormal romance authors, well, there's not a lot of them out there, so how do I find them? But if I just said I want romance authors and I write paranormal, most people can get over the fact, and sometimes it's even better. Sometimes finding people who don't necessarily read your genre can kind of help you see beyond. Because sometimes you get critique partners who are like, I don't know, I just was so engrossed in the story, I can't give you any advice. And then you're like, well, then why am I here? It feels good to have people love your stories, but if they have nothing to give you, how do you become a better author?
Yeah, it can help you become more well-rounded if you work with people who write, something that's slightly different than what you do. Yeah, for sure. I would also suggest we have a critique group as part of the Writing Gals. It's the Writing Gals critique group on Facebook. And we do allow people to post on there if they're looking for, like critique partners. So you could join that group and request, say I'm looking to form a critique group, and is anybody interested? So feel free to do that.
Oh, this one is so frustrating. Okay, this next question. What is the current state of the YA romance market, and how has it changed over the past few years? Anything new authors should keep in mind?
The YA market is crumbling for traditional publishers. So many traditional YA publishers are starting to close shop completely. I think that there were a few years when like the Divergent series and the Hunger Games and a few like real big titles came out, and publishers got really eager and blew up these big young adult housing wings for their publishing company. And lately it's been declining, and so they're closing shop. And we've seen also in the indie market that the YA market has shifted a lot from its roots to having a lot of adult steamy authors come in and sell what is actually adult romance in young adult romance, even if they make the characters the appropriate age. But so many of them have their characters like 18, 19, 20.
And they have the disclaimers at the bottom. This is for mature audiences. This is for upper YA, which is NA. Let's be honest.
Yeah. It should be new adult, but new adult doesn't sell, and so they come down to young adult. So basically, it's just one of those things that we're kind of, all markets kind of evolve and change and shift. And so I'm watching the young adult market, and I think that it's starting to shift out of that a little bit, because I don't think it was super profitable for a lot of those people that came in, because they were trying to approach a new market with the same material they were selling elsewhere and not really saying, okay, what does the adult market really want?
Or they took their steamy adult readers with them that weren't going to necessarily move over.
Yeah.
I still think we need good literature in YA, and I still think that it's so important. And there is voracious. I mean, you're talking YA. You're talking what's her bucket? Jennifer Nielsen talks about the circles or the quadrants that you can fill.
Yeah.
And that to have like a book go, what is it called?
Viral.
Not viral, but breakout.
Oh,
a breakout book is how many of those quadrants can you fill? Quadrants being children, YA, young adult, or not young adult, but like early adult and later adults, right? So you have those 4 quadrants. Well, how many quadrants does that book satisfy? So if you think about 50 Shades of Grey, it's really much the 2 older adults, all females. Why with Harry Potter so huge? Well, because it filled every single one of those quadrants. You have kids, middle grade, upper, younger adult, older adult, everybody loved Harry Potter and were willing to read it. Twilight, you had teenagers, you had younger adults, and you had older adults, all of them. So 3 quadrants were now being filled. So I think YA fills so many quadrants because you can have, especially if it's sweet, you can have younger girls reading, for older girls. You have or reading up, and you can have people reading in the current stage there is. And there's so many adults that love YA as well, like moms who like to read the YA adult.
Yeah. And you always have to remember with young adults and middle grade, those younger markets, that they are dependent on adults most of the time to buy their books.
Yep.
Well, my 14-year-old daughter reads a lot, but I pay for her Kindle Unlimited subscription. But at the same time, you just have to remember that they get access usually through their parents.
Yeah.
And so it's good to have books that can be something that a parent is like, oh, yes, I definitely want to purchase this for you. And I mean, I don't know, but I would think that a lot of mothers would be hesitant to give like a bully romance to like their 14-year-old daughter.
Oh yeah, especially if your book comes with a warning label. Like I think that's so important. So then it becomes, you have all this noise in the YA market, but there's a need and a want. How do you reach your readers at the level that they are at? A lot of moms would probably not trust just Amazon recommendations. So you're going to have to figure out ways to portray your book as not what they think it might be.
Yeah, sort of like the darker content, I think, and the really, really steamy content. While there are definitely readers for that, it's probably not the core YA market.
No.
And so anyway, I think that indies have an opportunity. I don't think that we should avoid the young adult market at all. It may be harder to make a huge profit there, but it could also be the reverse thing, that if you're one of the only shining books out there, then it could, do really well for you. I see books performing well. The best thing you can do is go to the young adult top 100 and
clean and wholesome.
Well, and even if you're reading steamy, I mean, just the young adult category on Amazon, the top 100 young adult books or young adult romance.
Well, I was just reading somebody who talked about that, and they said it's all like either steamy or it's like fantasy.
Yeah, well, that's true. So if you go look at the top 100, what we're saying is if you go look at the top 100 sellers in young adult, you can see, number one, is this an actual young adult book, or is it a book that should actually be in another category? If it is young adult, what is it ranked in the whole store, right? So find the top book that actually looks like a young adult book, that has young adult characters, and see what it's ranked in the overall store. And then you just kind of go down to the top 20, top 25, and all the way to top 100. See what those books are ranked. So go to the last one. Go to number 100 on the list. Is it a YA book? Yes. If it is, where is it ranked in the overall store? If it's like at 100,000, then that's telling you that maybe that category is not doing really well. But I would expect in young adult that the rank at the top 100 book, or the 100 book in the list, would probably be ranked really high.
Yeah. So
that tells me that young adult books are still making a profit for those who can get the visibility.
Is it Kindlepreneur, where you can go and you can type in keywords and you can see how much it's searched on Amazon?
Yeah, I think they have that.
So I get a lot of insight into the YA market based on my Amazon because I do have a YA series. And it's really hard to target specific books on Amazon because not a lot of books are ranked very high. I think one, because there's this huge mess in the traditional publishing world that they're not investing in their YA books anymore, so they're not pushing their YA books. So it's harder for me to piggyback on their, rank by using sponsored products for them. What I make more of my money on is search terms. So people who write good YA books, good teen books, books for teens, book for girls, those kinds of things. So it tells me people are looking for books. That's literally what I sell my books on, is books for teens. And it's not specific other books that I've been targeting, but by search terms. And this would be another one you want to think about in terms of YA. A lot of parents don't want to buy their kids ebooks, they want to buy them paperbacks. So if you're going to write YA, make sure you have paperbacks, because that's a huge seller for me as my paperbacks. So it's just kind of figuring out how write it. We need it. But how are you going to find your readers? And that's knowing that is important.
And we always say that the more people who are putting good books into the category, the better it is for the category.
Yes. Can we talk about that for a second?
Sure.
Can we talk about competition?
Let's go for it.
And how everybody is scared of competition, and how we all think that if other people are selling in our same genre, then that's going to hurt us, because it is unbelievably not true.
Yeah. Sometimes we feel like everybody's dogpiling on a category, or everybody's doing
a trend.
Yeah, everybody's writing the same thing, and we're just going to be lost in the shuffle. And what you have to understand is that readers don't read one author. Readers read every author that they can get their hands on. They read a book a day. They read 2 or 3 books a week. These romance readers are voracious. They read a lot. And there's no way any one author can keep them satisfied. And so we don't want them saying, okay, well, I read this book by my favorite author, so I guess I'll binge watch on Netflix for the next 2 weeks or the next month until she gets something out. We want them turning to another book. We want to keep them in our entertainment field, right? We want to keep them reading books. So every author should support and encourage other authors to provide the same kind of content that they are, so that market keeps coming back, because they know they're going to find something. If you were to go in, like I've done this myself, if there is a particular kind of candy bar or salad dressing or soda that I love and it's my favorite, and I go to the store and there's always like an out of stock on that item, I'm going to stop going to that store, because they never have what I'm looking for. I'm just going to give up. And I think that was what was impacting the clean and wholesome market for years, is that readers who wanted clean and wholesome romance couldn't find it on Amazon, because it was all just this big shuffle of everything, and they couldn't find it. And so as soon as Amazon made its own category, then readers are like, oh, I know I can go to this place and use these keywords, and I know that I can find the books I'm looking for. And so all of a sudden that category has been growing, right? So if more and more people are writing young adult romance that is tailored to the actual young adult market, then readers are going to keep going back and finding new books and new titles, exciting things. They're going to keep going back over and over and over again, because things are happening, things are moving and fresh there all the time, instead of the same old things. So just remember, anytime you're going into a new market, it is good to have other authors doing the same thing and bringing their readers and bringing their fans and keeping, a lot of volume on the shelves, so to speak.
And I feel like Michelle and I have been around long enough to speak some truth to this. And we've had major successes, and we've had major failures. And those, you start to see things when you kind of have that success, and then you have the failures, and you're kind of figuring out a way to kind of calm the waters, and so you're feeling comfortable in your career now, where you can look back and you can say, my success was not because of A, and my failure wasn't because of B. And sometimes some books just don't make it in the market, and sometimes some books do. And I always say, I released a series. I have a paranormal sweet romance series, a Wool Shifter one. And I was very adamant that I wanted to do this by myself. I didn't want to tell anybody yet, because I was kind of frustrated. I felt like people had copied me in the past, and I wanted to keep this to myself. And the series did really well, but I have no one to target now. and I have no books that are similar to my book. So if somebody's on somebody else's page, I can't target them because I don't have anyone that looks like my books or are like my books. So the only way I can get readers is if I'm trying to actively go out and find them on a Facebook ad. But I can't target them on Amazon at all because no other books exist. Mm-hmm. And that's a major, major problem. Mm-hmm. And
you don't build a market of readers with your own readers. Like,
no.
Like, it's the incoming readers from all the different authors in a category that make it strong. They give us a nice big pool for everybody to sell to. And like I said, it's not like, the scarcity mentality where, only a few people will be able to sell books. The idea is those readers are going to read the more we give them to read.
And if you find a book that looks similar to yours or everybody jumps on a trend, like when we did Billionaires, everybody jumped on Billionaires. And I wonder if our success in Billionaires was because so many people started reading in Billionaires. And they were bringing readers in who were then finding our books, or they were spending money on advertising that was then coming in and finding our books. So
we've seen the same things happen. We've seen it happen in cozy paranormal mysteries. We've seen it happen in women's fiction. I think we're seeing it in rom-com right now. There's been different trends that have gotten really big in different genres that I've watched happen. And sometimes it's really hard for people leading kind of at the forefront of those trends when everybody kind of discovers it and goes over there, because it feels like then there's so much competition. But I just really think that our market is something that we have to remember competition doesn't really exist in the same way it would in other fields. Like if we were trying to sell toilet paper and people only use a certain amount. I say that because my husband moves toilet paper for a living and he's been having fun during the pandemic. Like people are only going to use a certain amount of toilet paper and they're only going to buy one kind. Once Charmin has sold you a package of toilet paper, like you're good on toilet paper, But with books, it's not the same thing. It's not like you're trying to convince readers, let me be the one that you choose on the shelf and none of the others. That's not how our market works. Our market is choose us all, read us all. We're all good.
Well, they say librarians after Twilight came out, they, all the trad publishers were like, nobody wants vampires anymore. And librarians are like, that is not true. I have readers that are devouring Twilight and all these other books and coming back wanting more vampire romances, and I don't know what to give them because there's nothing else. So just keep that in mind. Let's support each other and lift each other up and realize that, like, I wonder when I released my rule number 1, it did so well because of Jenny Han's book doing so well. And it did well because of Maggie Dallin was releasing it, and Amanda Adams was releasing, and Judy was releasing. There was tons of people releasing. And I wonder if YA has stagnated because people don't feel like it's a viable market anymore and they're leaving it, even though the more people writing in it, the more people producing material, more readers are coming and looking for more. So to me now, it's like support everybody, anybody who's writing, build them up, because if somebody was to create a cover that looked like my paranormal, or they created a book similar to it, you know what I would do? I would just target the crap out of their book with mine on Amazon ads. That's a positive thing because they're going to be bringing readers in, I'm going to be bringing in readers in, and then we can share readers. So we just want to make sure that we're all, don't get into the scarcity mindset and think, and plus anyways, this is a career, right? You're going to write multiple series, and you're going to have some that do great, and you're going to have some that do 0. You're going to have some that Amazon picks up. My Rule series, where I was like, I don't know how it's going up in rank, but it is, and I'm here for the ride because it's not always going to guarantee. Oh, I'm sorry that the audio is choppy.
I'm always the one with technical problems. We had to choose ours.
We were going to choose mine. Well, we're gonna wrap it up since we have writing to do, but we enjoyed coming here and being here with you guys. Let's see if we have any questions.
Let's see here.
How long on average does it take you guys to write your books?
Different answers for us. For me, I would love to say it takes a month, but it usually takes 2 or 3. It is full length.
Mine is, it depends. Lately, it's been taking me longer, but normally a month and a half.
Okay. Are there any writing craft books or resources that helped you that you recommend? What is that one? The red one.
Oh, Story Genius.
Yeah, Story Genius. I definitely recommend that one. That one can be career changing.
I would say come to the Writing Gals conference later on this year, where we do focus on a lot of craft.
Yeah, and our podcast, or like our YouTube channel in general, and then we have a book out called Writing to Market. The Writing Gals Discuss Writing to Market. That's got a lot of good resources for that specific thing. Let's see. I think that's all.
Don't stop. Oh, you're so sweet. Even though we're choppy, you want to listen to what we're saying. That's so awesome. I would say the other thing with books and resources is I think the thing that helped me the best was beta reading. Because I think a lot of times you can read things, but putting things into application or learning what it is that you like or you don't like, and you get that through beta reading by reading other people's books, is really important. Discuss Storymakers Conference. I'm not going or teaching, and neither is Michelle. Victorine is. But I think there are Facebook groups that you can join where you can talk more about Storymakers. Yeah. Since we're not really going, we don't really promote other people's conferences here, but we'll talk about ours, which somebody just asked.
In September is our goal right now. We don't have we're not doing in person this year.
No,
things are still too crazy, and everybody seems to be really happy with the virtual.
We have international people that can't come, and they really enjoyed the fact that they could come online. And the thing is that a lot of these in-person conferences, they try to accommodate online people, but then the technical difficulties are just so sporadic and crazy that we decided this year we were going to just do online.
Yeah, when we had to make the sad decision to go virtual last year, we were surprised at how many people were like, oh, great, now I can go. And all the international people saying, great, now I can go. And some of the stay-at-home moms, great, I can go. Those who couldn't get vacation for work, great, now I can go. And we were just like, wow, there's a lot of people that, have access to it now that didn't before. And it was also more cost effective for people who were on a tight budget because there wasn't that was their Victorine posted about Storymakers Conference and she's teaching there. So we were surprised, it didn't make a difference because people didn't have to pay for, an airline ticket. They didn't have to have a hotel. They didn't have all the meals out, that kind of thing. And we were able to do it a lot more affordably too, because we weren't paying for a venue and catering and tech support and all that sort of stuff. So it just really makes a lot of sense for us, especially this year, to do virtual. And if we start doing in-person events, it won't be until next year, and we're still trying to figure out how best to do that.
But we do realize that there is a certain ambiance that comes from having a conference in person and sort of not collaborate.
Well, you're able to network, you're able to meet people, you're able to see people face to face and meet the people that you've only seen on online. My husband always teases me about my online friends, and then I'm like, but they become in real life friends too when you get to meet them in person. So we definitely get people wanting to be in person too, but that won't be happening this year. But you can look forward to us making an announcement about our virtual conference. It will probably be in September, and as soon as we have a date nailed down, we'll announce that and let people start registering or planning for that, because we know there are a lot of conference choices out there for people and they don't necessarily get to do all of them in 1 year. We have to make the same hard choices ourselves.
Yeah.
So,
all right. Well, I think we're done. And it was great hanging out with you guys. We're going to go get some more words written. Yeah. And we'll see you guys in 2 weeks.
Yep. Have a great day. Share and subscribe.